One. Hello, everyone. My name is Mark Kageyama, and I'd like to thank everyone for joining us here at To Be Your Own Hero. And today is a special day, and I'll talk about that in a second, but I'm a stage 4 prostate cancer, bone cancer, and lung cancer patient, and I've been dealing with cancer for just under 2 years, and I'm making really great progress, and I'm just excited about every single day. I feel so blessed to open my eyes every single day and enjoy just the beautiful, beautiful things that God has provided. And I'm so honored to have this interview with two great people. And what I'd like to do at this time is to introduce I'm having a co-host on my channel for the very first time. And it's my friend Juanita Prada, who I've interviewed a couple of times on previous videos. And what I'd like to do is bring her on, Juanita Prada of Behold, Be Gold. Juanita, please introduce yourself and talk about a little bit who we're talking with.
Hi, Mark, and hi, special guest Ellen. Hello, audience. My name is Juanita Prada. I am founder of Behold, Be Gold, an advocacy movement for childhood cancer survivors who have delayed effects of treatment. And to know more about that and Behold, Be Gold, go visit Mark's previous videos, and you can learn all about me and Behold, Be Gold. Today, we have the honor to interview Ellen. And Ellen, please introduce yourself. Coming at you from the UK.
Hey everyone, I'm Ellen, coming from the UK. I am founder of Eye Cancer, and I'm an advocate for late effects of childhood cancer. So that's just the basics about me, and we'll be coming on to my story in a moment.
Correct. Yes, Ellen. So first tell us, what do you recall when you were first diagnosed with cancer? Please, we would love to hear.
So I'm currently 26, but I was first diagnosed with cancer when I was 9. So that was 2005. And I remember I had bruising, but not like just one little bruise on your leg kind of thing, kind of everywhere, all over my body. And we went to the hospital and they did blood tests and everything. And I was meant to be going on a school trip on the Monday, and they said, go home, it's fine. We'll do the blood test. If anything abnormal comes back, we'll be in contact. So I went on my school trip, and as soon as I'd got there, I kind of was told that I had to go back because the blood results were abnormal. So I went back to the hospital, and that's where it all started. But I think at the beginning, when you're kind of that young, you're kind of a bit oblivious. You kind of live day to day, really, I would say. And I just thought it was, when you think at that age that when you go to the hospital, they'll kind of fix you within a day or so, and that'll be it. So it was never in my mind that, oh my goodness, this could be cancer. It was just, it'll be fixed and that. And then obviously when I was told that I had cancer, it was a shock. But because I was so young at that point, I think I didn't really realize what was to come. And I think that was the hardest. I remember I arrived at the ward, and there was all these bays of rooms of children, and I just said to my mum, oh my goodness, these children look so ill. And obviously little did I know that would soon be me with no hair and looking really ill, and connected to all the machines and things. So that was the first time, and I think it was a bit of a shock. The second time, because I actually relapsed just under 3 years later after I initially finished treatment, that was when I think it hit me more, because I'd had this leg pain and really bad headaches for weeks, and I'd been to my GP, which is like my local general practitioner. I don't know if you have, it's obviously a similar thing where you are. And he just kept dismissing it and saying, you just need to do more exercise, you need to lose weight. Not that I was really big anyway, but I don't know. I look back now and I don't know why it wasn't picked up, especially as I'd previously had cancer. But anyway, it got to one night and I'd had like really severe leg pain overnight, and again headache, like really, really bad headaches. And we went to the hospital, and they'd said they'd done a brain scan and they said, oh, so all fine, we think it's just migraine anyway. This was a weekend. It seems to always be weekends that I ended up in hospital. And that Monday, the consultant had called and said, there's some spots on the brain, you know, can you come back in? And I was told, then transferred to kind of our big hospital, which is Great Ormond Street Hospital in London, because I live just outside London, and I was told that I'd relapsed. And that time I was really shocked, and it was horrendous because I knew what was coming. The first time round, you're kind of you don't know what's coming. You're kind of, it's the unknown. But the second time it was like, oh my goodness, I've got to go through all this again. And I remember my aunt was with me and I was just screaming. Like, I was hysterical because I was just like, oh my goodness. Like, I think also the big part, which we'll come on to in a minute, but it's kind of, you realize it's not just the treatment or being in hospital, it's your social, like not seeing your friends, like missing out on school. I always loved school. So, you know, it was really tough. But that second time when I was 12, it definitely hit me more emotionally, I would say, the relapse.
So Ellen, exactly what kind of cancer did you have and what kind of treatments and procedures were done?
So I had acute promyelocytic leukemia, which is a subgroup of acute myeloid leukemia. So AML is probably the more common, or leukemia, but mine was a subgroup of AML, which was APL. And the first time I had chemo, which was 4 blocks of intensive chemo. So you'd kind of have a couple of weeks of chemo, then you'd have to wait for your counts to kind of come up again and be in hospital. So I was in hospital roughly for about 6 months, with only about 3 weeks at home within that 6-month period. And it was really, really tough. You know, like everyone says with chemo, you've got the mouth ulcers, you feel really rotten all round, you're dependent on other people, you've got a Hickman lining, so you can't, you know, it's not, you know, you can't have proper baths and stuff, you know, it's just, it was very much, I was in that, you're in a bubble, I would say, when you're in hospital, and you're kind of in this hospital world without really seeing many people outside of that, because obviously you've got to be careful of, you know, if you're neutropenic, you can't be seeing loads of people, you can't always eat what you want to be eating because they're quite strict on what you can eat. So it was tough, but I would say, looking back now, it was a breeze compared to the treatment that I had then when I relapsed. So I relapsed, as I said, just under 3 years after my initial cancer. But the second time round, I had this massive stroke. And I'd gone from this, you know, child of 12 who was the highest achiever in their class and always an A-star student, to suddenly I couldn't walk, I couldn't talk, I couldn't tell the time, I couldn't say if I needed a drink, nothing. Like I had like one phrase that I'd say and that's all that would come out of my mouth. So in my head, I knew what I wanted to say, but it just wouldn't come out. And for me, that was the toughest time of it all, because, you know, we were told at that point that it would probably never come back because a third of my brain is dead. And, you know, I just feel very thankful to God, and it's a miracle really that I am able to, I do have some memory issues now, but that it did come back. You know, every day, as well as being on chemo, I was having occupational therapy, physiotherapy, speech and language therapy. So it was tough. It was really tough. It wasn't like I was just sitting there and it was a breeze and suddenly I could walk again. You know, it's intense therapy, but you know, I'm very, very thankful that it did come back. And obviously I'm, you know, talking and able to do all of that myself now. But I think you almost look back now, and I have flashbacks and you have moments where you think about, oh my goodness, you know, what it was like then, but you kind of can't quite believe it. You almost think like it's not you, it was someone else, you know. So that time I was put straight on chemo again because they thought that the cancer had obviously gone to the brain. And then they'd got a new treatment out, which was arsenic, like the poison therapy. So I had this new treatment. I was one of the first people in the UK to have this treatment. And it was a lot easier. You just had to get your heart checked daily when you had the treatment. And there was also some vitamin A tablets, which also, you know, for the type of leukemia that I had, it was very high success rate. So that treatment was a lot less invasive to the chemo that I'd had previously. And I had that treatment and I was, you know, I was into remission, but I seemed to, you know, I still had a lot of memory issues, although I could walk and talk and everything. I've still got some memory issues that unfortunately I've been left with. So that's kind of a brief you know, information about kind of the treatment that I had. Obviously there's lots more I could say, but I'm conscious of time.
No, don't worry about time. So that's a lot, Ellen. Like, you just
A lot of stuff going into everywhere, affecting your whole body, especially your brain. So how did it all go with school? Like, how did you deal with school, with having cancer? Did you do homeschool? Did you go to school having cancer? Tell me a little bit about friendships and stuff, you know, school stuff.
Yeah, so when I was on treatment, they had, you know, school in the hospital where they'd come in and see you, or you could go down to the school. But to be honest, I mean, as you all know, I was too ill to do anything really for those first few months when I was in hospital. I mean, occasionally a teacher would come in, but it's just not your priority. You're just not well enough really for it. That's it really. So when I'd finished treatment, I'd still had really, really bad headaches and dizziness and things, and I wasn't really well. So I missed, I would say, really about 5 years of schooling. And it was tough because it's not, as I've said, it's not just the schooling, it's socially, you're not seeing your friends, you're not leading
Correct.
any type of normal life. I was with, you know, my main circle was like my mum. My parents had divorced just before I relapsed the second time. You know, it was just like me, my mum, my auntie, my grandparents, and that was my kind of bubble at home. And when you're not seeing people of your own age, it really does. It's tough. It's tough, and you're seeing that friends are leading a normal life, going to schools, you know, at that age, say at this time I was 14, 15, they're starting to go out and do teenage things, you know, be more independent. And I just didn't have that life. I was so dependent on, you know, my family around me. So that was a really tough time of my life. And eventually, I missed about 5 years, because then when I was 16, we found a school that was in central London, but it was really small classes. So it was only like 5 in a class. And I went there, and that was a godsend really, because I made some new friends, and it was just like the start of a new life in a way, like a normal life. I was getting the train into town, like seeing my friends. I was, you know, our main exams are like GCSEs and A levels, and I focused on like 3 GCSEs at a time, whereas normally people would be doing 12, say. But I just focused on a few because my memory was and is so that I'm fine in the class. I'll be in the class learning it, and I'm top of the game really. And then the next day, it's as if I've never learned it before, and that's my memory, and that's how it is. So it's repetition and learning things where someone else might need to learn it 2 or 3, you know, once or twice. For me, it might be 6 or 7 times before it's stuck in the brain. So I was at that school for a couple of years, and I did a few GCSEs, and I'd started the A levels, and then I found that I'd got to the stage where I was like, I don't cope with exams because of my memory, as I say. I needed something that was more coursework based, so you're going along kind of, and you didn't have exams. So I went to a college and I started doing a childcare course, and then I got a year into that, and then I had to have more brain surgery, so that stopped. And then I was like, right, I'm fed up with exams now. I'm completely fed up with it. And I went and found a job, and I was working with children with special needs, because I'd previously been doing that as a Saturday job. And I absolutely loved that. And I was there for a few years until the COVID pandemic. And then I had to stop working just before that because of obviously the risk and everything like that. So I've definitely had had a conventional education path, but I think there's more to life than just conventional education. And I have a lot of, there's a lot that I can do in certain aspects that a lot of my peers can't. So it's everyone is different and it's individual, isn't it?
Ellen, I saw and loved your video that Juanita had sent to me. And could you share how many brain surgeries you've gone through?
Yeah, so I've had 13 brain surgeries.
Wow.
So it's crazy. And you know what the worst bit is about all of it is the fact that you have to have your head shaved. And I have this battle with my neurosurgeon every time. I'm like, right, you can't take too much hair. But yeah, I guess, you know what, for other people it seems a lot, but it kind of you kind of normalize it. Do you find this with cancer as well? It's kind of what we think is kind of everyday life. For others, it's like shocking, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah,
you're totally right.
So Ellen, how has survivorship of childhood cancer influenced and impacted your life today?
Well, I've been left with multiple late effects. So late effects are something that can come on basically any time after treatment has finished. So initially when I finished treatment, as I said, I had these headaches and we found out that it was caused by intracranial hypertension. So that means there's fluid on the brain, and that's why I've had all of these brain surgeries, because I have some tubing in my brain now that drains the fluid. But sometimes, I've had to have replacements of that tubing. So that's why I've had so many brain surgeries. And I live with kind of constant headaches because that causes headaches, as well as I've got chronic migraine. I also have chronic fatigue, which is obviously pretty self-explanatory. It's, you're just fatigued all the time and exhausted. I've got epilepsy, but I'm really thankful that I'm 12 years seizure free, which is, which I'm very thankful for. I have issues. It's like a long list here. It's crazy. I have issues with my thyroid. I've got POTS, which is postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. So it means that when I stand up, so if I'm sat here to standing up, my heart rate shoots up. So that causes dizziness, fatigue, brain fog, kind of, a lot of symptoms. And then in the last couple of years, it's almost 3 years now, I was diagnosed with heart failure. And that's from the treatment that I literally had 13, 14 years ago. And I think for me, that was the craziest late effect to come, because, you think a late effect's going to come soonish from when treatment finished. And then to suddenly get this late effect now, I was like, oh my goodness, this is mad. And I had a lot of symptoms with that. And then we found out it was this heart failure. And I'm on medication now, and it's a lot better than it was. But it's just, I think, as I said, you just can't believe that it can affect and impact your body this many years later,
Correct. Yeah. And that kind of leads us to the next question, Ellen, that I was kind of wondering, and I'm sure Marcus too, what, I hashtagged when I was going through my late effects that I started to get after, like you mentioned, years later, that you're just like, whoa, where did this come from, right? And nobody really teaches you, Survivorship 101, what's going to happen later on. But I hashtag late effects of childhood cancer. And who was the first person that came up? Ta-da! Ellen! I was like, no way. Ellen I need to contact this girl. Then you told me you were in the UK, and I was like, what? And I'm in the US. So I was just so excited seeing all your content, your website, your video, everything that you do. Tell us about eye cancer, because people need to know. People who have late effects of childhood cancer need to know.
Yeah, so as I said, it was at this point when I'd been diagnosed with the heart failure, I was like, this is madness. I'd had some issues with my hospital, and they hadn't picked up on it. We had to get a second opinion and stuff, and I thought, I need to spread the word about this, because this is just mad. So I was like, I started my eye cancer, which is ican.cer on Instagram. And I was like, I just need to spread the word and connect with other people like you, my love, who, you know, are going through a similar thing, because people don't talk about it. And people aren't aware of it. You know, obviously hematology teams and stuff are, but I'm talking about not just like everyday people, I'm talking about medical care as well. You know, people aren't aware that you can get these late effects so many years later. So I started the account, and it's just, I would say it's, you know, it's just to spread the word, but also to connect others who are in a similar position, because, you know, like you, like we're, you know, different countries and everything, but, you know, we're still living with similar issues. And it's so vital to have people who get it, because we've all got friends and best friends and family members and everything who we absolutely love dearly. But I think unless you're in the similar position of having cancer, people don't understand.
Correct.
100%. And that's why I just thought, right, I'm starting this, and it's just grown really, and it's just lovely. You know, you get, I'm sure you're the same, you, like you said, you're getting messages and from people, and they're like, oh, this has helped me. You know, now, you know, I had a message from someone last week that said, you know, seeing your video, the one you two are talking about, which I'm sure we can kind of add in, and now I'm going to, you know, kind of shout louder about my son who's got cancer and things. And you think, well, that you know, like, that's why I do it. You know, you do it to help others, and so others can raise their voice too.
Right. Yeah, I think it was a great space to connect. So I recommend anybody who's on social media, especially on Instagram, to go check out Ellen. And we'll talk more about that later. Mark, take it away.
Ellen, let me say this much right now. You are so incredibly inspiring. I am just blown away at what you've gone through, and, you know, to come out with your beautiful attitude. I'm so impressed, and I'm so honored to meet you and to share this interview with you. What are some of the charities and organizations that you're involved with? And could you please tell us how you're involved with them and what your role is?
Yeah, so I would say the charity that I'm closest to is Trek Stock. So it's a charity that
can you please spell that?
So it's TREKSTOCK, Trek Stock. And it's a charity for young people in their 20s and 30s, so basically age 20 to 40, basically, who are living with or beyond cancer. So I found that with a lot of charities, they might support you, say, when you're initially on treatment, but then there's not really that space for you after treatment, whereas Trek Stock are literally there from diagnosis forever until you kind of need them. So I'm a young adult ambassador for them, and I can quite literally say that they've literally changed my life. Their main focus is exercise, so kind of getting you back into exercise and fitness after or during and after treatment. A space for people to connect, so meetups, you know, so you can meet other people, and also they do a lot of kind of like webinars with healthcare professionals talking about, say, taboo subjects that people aren't going to speak about, like menopause during it, you know, friendships, you know, loads of different things. But they've been amazing, and for me, it's definitely been a space where I can connect. Like I've said, it's so vital to be able to connect with others, and they've certainly done that for me. So I would, you know, I absolutely adore them, and I'm constantly sharing their posts and, you know, raving about them because they're incredible. And I don't know where I would have been without them, because I only met them about 6 years ago, maybe 6-7 years ago. So obviously I was post-treatment then, but I had the late effects, and it's just been amazing to work with them and expand the awareness with them as well about the late effects and connecting others. So that's the main charity, I would say, really. I've also done some work with Children with Cancer UK. So I always knew about them because their offices are right opposite Great Ormond Street Hospital. So I always knew they were there. But in the last few years, I've got involved with them, again, spreading the word about late effects, because I think with a lot of charities, as I've said, it can be just focused on current treatment, and they're more for research. They're a research charity, which obviously we need, because at the end of the day we need more, we need more research for less invasive treatments, because then we wouldn't be left with all these late effects. So I think foremost, really, that's the most important thing probably for late effects. But I've been doing some work with them, and I've done a video, which is that one we're talking about. So I hope, as I've said, we can add that on, I'm sure. And they're amazing. And I've also more recently been involved with teenage and young adults with cancer, part of their professional educational group. So that's improving care and treatment for people, living with and beyond cancer. So that's really cool, because I never thought I'd be part of kind of a professional educational group. So yeah, I feel pretty proud to have joined that. So yeah, they're all amazing and all do different things in their own way. And I think when you go through something like this, you have some people who just don't want to talk about cancer ever again, or you have people like us who want to talk about it. And I think for me, it's so important to be speaking about it. And of course I feel like, I do have days where you think, oh my goodness, a lot of my life is cancer focused. And sometimes I'm like, I just need a few weeks to just see my friends and do other stuff, because I think that's natural and that's not a negative, it's just how it is. I'm being very open here when I talk, but but I think also it's very important to talk about it, because it affects all of us in different ways. And yeah.
What went through my mind when you said some people don't want to talk about it, and then all of us who want to share about it, you forgot the last part. We don't want to shut up about it. We keep talking about it. Because it's part of our life. It's something that we want to share with people, so that we can help somebody else. And with that, Juanita, the stage is yours.
Just hearing exactly, we don't want to shut up about it. And especially guys, if you just have I guess just that mindset of wow, look, after everything I had been through, you and me, Ellen, 2-time childhood cancer survivors. Wow. And you have a whole grocery list of late effects, girl. And look where you are. You're smiling, you're laughing, your beautiful accent, everything is so awesome about you. So how do you look at it today? After all you've been through and you're still undergoing, what do you feel like is your attitude towards it, your outlook of it? And it seems like you're doing a lot with these organizations. So how do you see yourself Yeah.
I think like a few years, I think my mindset has definitely shifted. I'm not saying I was ever a negative person, because I think for me, when I went through cancer, I was like, right, the goal is obviously to be alive and to, I'm going to do everything that I can in that sense. I'm never going to give up, But I think in the last few years, I've shifted a bit, because I think when you're living with late effects, a lot of people who have treatment, it's, say 6 months of treatment and then you're finished and then you're back to normal. And for many of us, this isn't the case. And there are some days where I look at my friend and I'm seeing what they're doing, and I don't know, they're having kids, or they're buying a house. And for me, that's not where I'm at right now. And it can be tough, but there's such a flip. If you look at the other side, I feel every day I'm so grateful to be alive. And I think you have to some way you have to think like you just have to, because I think, like I say, there's two ways to look at it, but it's being thankful, as I said, with the stroke, I might never have recovered, and yet here I am, doing what I'm doing. I feel very grateful. I think you've got to be kind to yourself, and it's something that one of the ladies from Truckstock said to me a few years ago, and it stuck with me in my head, because I think we all do have days where we feel a bit, don't feel well, and you have to just think, right, today is a day that I'm not feeling well. I'm going to sit down, I'm going to watch Netflix, I'm going to, drink and eat what I want, and then tomorrow will be a better day. And you have to think like that, because if you think, oh my goodness, this headache's really bad today, it's going to be like this forever now, that's not you can't think like that. I've just got a little list here to remind myself. I think, as I've said, not comparing to others. And of course, that's easier said than done. There's some days that I look at my friend, but it's just reminding yourself, having faith, I think, that things will work out. I think, you know, we're very much, our society is very much, right, you need to do this now, you need to achieve this now, you've got to achieve the best and be the best that you can ever be. But actually, that's different for everyone. Mm-hmm. And you know, what I want to achieve is different to you, to Mark, you know, it's different to all of us. And it's being realistic as well, I would say, with that, and knowing your boundaries. There's so many little things that have helped me along the way. You know, I used to get really, you know, like informing friends and family when I'm not well. You know, I used to feel really guilty if I had to cancel meeting up with friends, but it's changing that mindset and letting them know and not worrying, because actually today is a day that I don't feel well. And sorry, I've gone a bit off tangent here, but you know, it's just little things, and empathy and compassion to myself, because we've all got empathy for everyone else, but actually it's having that for ourselves. Mm-hmm. But as I said, it takes time. And I think if someone who's watching this is someone who maybe who's just started treatment, or maybe even just finished treatment, this isn't all going to come today. You're not going to learn all of this today or tomorrow. It might take years. As I said, it took me years to get to this headspace, but it will come. And you have to get, as I said, give yourself compassion, and you will get there. So, you know, I sound like some TED talk, like 101, you know, but you know, it does take time, but you'll get there. And I think but the biggest one that I found difficult is the comparison and looking at other friends and not having or not being where I thought I would be. And it's just thinking, well, actually, I'm doing something like this. What a joy it is to speak to you guys, people I wouldn't have met otherwise, you know? So it's looking and thinking, actually, I'm doing this, but my friends maybe couldn't come and do any public speaking, or my friends couldn't, you know, things that they couldn't do that I can do. So it's just, you know, being kind to yourself and just taking each day by day. I think, yeah, yeah, that's me. I think it's just, no, I'm just thinking, but I'm just thinking that it is so, I think it's just the society that we live in is just wants us to constantly be doing more. And I think you just have to stop and just think, this is me, and this is where I am, and this is who I am, and this is my purpose coming, you know. My purpose, I do feel, is to raise awareness and help others and have that compassion and things. And I think, you know, I feel very thankful that I'm here. It's just, yeah, amazing. I'm very thankful.
Thank you so much, Ellen. Go ahead, Juanita.
No, the same thing. Thank you so much for sharing, because wow, you just boost us with so much energy and everything. You know, I'm already energetic, but this is just like, wow, Ellen's so amazing. And you're right. It is really hard to, I've always compared myself as well too, you know, like you're put like in a bubble, like you mentioned, for 5 years, because for me, it was also 5 years. And you just miss so much that you're so behind. People are having babies, people are getting married, and you know, right now I just want to focus on what you can do, and that, you know, so it is, I can completely relate. And I think, you know, you're just, I mean, where you are today, and it's unbelievable just hearing everything that you just said. Yeah. I'm sure Mark is like, wow.
I think it's so true. It is. And I think also this COVID pandemic has changed things for me, because I've had to be shielding, you know, and stuff. And again, it's coming back to all these little tips and tricks that we've got in our book, kind of, you know, to remind ourselves that, you know, this is, you know, just take it day by day. Be easy on yourself.
Correct. Take it away, Mark.
You know what I've come to find is cancer patients who get it like we do have so much maturity, no matter what their age, because they understand more about life and the preciousness and the value and how beautiful life is. And so that's, to go through what you have gone through is just mind-boggling. It's absolutely unbelievable. And so thank you for sharing your story, Ellen. So where can people get in touch with you? Because I'm sure they're
Oh.
going to want to reach out and hear more about you.
Yeah, so it's iCancer on Instagram. So that's my main platform at the moment. So it's iCan, so ICAN.CER. So that's where I am. And obviously that's where I talk about my late effects. And yeah, it'd be lovely to hear from anyone who's watched this and, you know, get in touch and connect, really.
That is so beautiful. And so what I'd like to do is I'd like to thank both of you, my wonderful co-host, Juanita, who is amazing. And thank you, Ellen, as well. You're absolutely equally amazing. And we appreciate you sharing your story because, I mean, people need to realize, you know, that cancer is not a death sentence. You know, you could live with it and thrive in life with it. And that's what you've done. I think the interesting thing that we all have to reconcile with ourselves is accepting the new you after you've gotten cancer.
That's
I
so
mean,
true.
that was a hard thing for me because, you know, I was one way before cancer, and I'm not going to be that way, maybe not ever again, but it's okay. You know, I'm happy with where I am today, and I'm more than thrilled with the people I've met and the people I've come in touch with. And so that is such a blessing. And so with that, what I'd like to do, any final word real quick, Juanita and Ellen?
No, I just completely agree.
Yeah, no, I again just thank you, Mark, for having me as your co-host. I think, you know, this was a great interview with Ellen because I think you know, in this channel, people really are getting to see that for childhood cancer, it's something that, you know, it's never ending as far as treatments and everything that can happen after survivorship, just because we're so little. Then we grow up, and then there's many barriers that come our way, right? So I think, you know, I think with Be Gold, I think with eye cancer, I think it's just crucial that people really understand what happens after survivorship, and that people are able to, despite these late effects, people are still able to conquer. You have two amazing, because I always preach myself too. You have two amazing people on here who are a testimony of that. And I think this video is gold. So everybody who's watching this, share it.
100%. Preach it, girl. Yeah, thank you both. It's been really great. And I think that's so true. And just one final thing I was going to say, that, you know, you see my list of late effects and you think maybe it could be a negative, and it's not. There's so many positives that have come out of it. And I think that's so important, you know, as you've said there. So get on it, check us out.
Thank you so much, both of you. Juanita Prada and Ellen Bisci. And Ellen is coming from the UK. Juanita's coming from the East Coast. I'm from the West Coast. So we got the whole area covered. Thank you so much. It's been a wonderful, wonderful experience. I appreciate everyone for tuning in to Be Your Own Hero. And let's all, because we're all spread out all over here, all over the place, let's come together and help make this world a better place. And that's what I always preach, is helping do our own part in this. You know, the world is there's so much going on, there's so much negativity, and we can bring positivity, and we can help people to see a different angle of the world, that the world is absolutely incredible, and we could start with us. And so that's what I would like, you know, is for us to spread, you know, how beautiful this life is and what God has provided us. And so thanks to everyone for joining us at To Be Your Own Hero, and make the most out of every single day. You know, appreciate your health, make the most out of every hour, every minute, and every second. And as my friend Linda Sherman says, every breath. And so thank you so much for joining us at To Be Your Own Hero. And we shall see you next week. Thank you so much.